Welcome back to Coates in Conversation. I'm your host, Kendrick Coates, a licensed therapist who works with couples and athletes in Illinois and Alabama. In today's conversation, I'll be speaking with Dr. Bianca Obinyan, who is a new psychiatry resident. Today's conversation is going to be centered around the impact community-based programs have on adolescent mental health, how schools can be more trauma-informed, and how we can encourage more mental health conversations where students spend most of their time. Dr. Obinyan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is a podcast that I've been looking forward to as I continue to diversify some of the conversations that I have on this podcast. I think this is a good one because you and I both know, and when it comes to mental health, there are so many kids who struggle,
Yep.
especially in underrepresented communities. So, how does having a strong sense of community, whether through family, educators, or mentors, impact the mental health and resilience of students, particularly those from marginalized backgrounds?
So, community is everything. And I think, especially when we think about our history as Black and African Americans, we come up with this like concept about village, right? It takes a village to raise a child. And so that's how I feel when I'm in the community. I feel like I'm just a part of their village. So, when you talk about how that helps like athletes, particularly those from marginalized communities, sometimes parents just cannot make it to their games. Right? For one reason or the other, parents can't just make it to their games. Parents may not be able to make it to their parent teacher conference meetings because the meeting's held at 3 o'clock, work ends at 5 o'clock. Who's going to be there for their child? And that's
Mm.
where I come in. Because I build these strong relationships in the community with the parents, I'm able to represent the family in a different way when it comes to being in the school system. So I am that big sister that goes to the parent teacher conference meeting that's at 3 o'clock and relays the information back to the parents, of course, with the consent. And of course, they enlist me as big sis on the Skyward. So but it's because I build these strong relationships, and it really does start from the community and then it goes into their athletics as well, right? So if I'm in the school representing them as big sis, and then that same teacher sees me at the game, like, hey, you're so and so's big sister. Like, yeah, I'm just here at the basketball game. And then, boom, that same teacher more than likely will see me giving a talk out in the community. They're able to see me holistically, they're able to see me in three different places, right? Classroom, community, clinic. And I think that just helps the families knowing that they have somebody that's in their corner, knowing that they don't have to do it by themselves. They don't have to do it alone.
I can't help but to think, at least when I was growing up, we did have community. You had aunts, uncles, grandma, grandfather. Everybody was in the community to be able to help parents, moms, dads, whoever take care of this, specifically in my situation. But it's changed. It's changed to where people are moving and people are more distant from one another. But when we start thinking about underrepresented communities, under resourced communities, and how some of these programs have such a large impact on kids and their well being, sometimes it is big sis, like you said, who is that person who instills hope, who is that person that instills confidence in these young kids to where it's like, oh yeah, Dr. Obinyan, she did this or she said that. I remember that 5 years ago. So, you say that. I also think through when you said, some of the teachers will see you in three different, maybe wearing three different hats, it almost instills trust in, having these mentors or resources within the schools. So, the other thing I'm thinking through is many students, including athletes, struggle with depression and suicidal thoughts. What are some key warning signs that educators and parents should be aware of?
Ooh, that's a good one. But I want to go back to that sense of community first, where you're talking about aunts, uncles, grandmas, and all those things. And one thing I like about the Galveston community is that they were that. I mean, it was, man, grandmas, aunts, uncles in the stands, right? But for certain students, when it came down to AAU, right, the competitive meets, certain students didn't have that. I think that that just goes to show how important it is in the schools. But sometimes I really wish that we could translate that a lot more when it comes to outside sports. But to your next point, right? when you talk about the signs. I mean, I know it might be a hot take, but I'd say look at their social media. And I think because I have that trust with the athletes and their parents, I follow some of them on my social media, from my professional page. Some of them post very clear, explicit language of I am going through it, whether it be like an NBA young boy lyric or a Rod Wave or just like, I wish everything would just stop and end. They will post it clear as day on their social media. And that's a tell sign of, hey, this child is going through something. And the thing is, it's anytime I reach out and I say, hey, what's going on? Like I just had a really rough day in school. That's just another speaking point for me to be like, hey, what happened at school? Let me know about it. Let's talk through it. And sometimes it just takes that one conversation. Sometimes it just takes somebody really just clicking and like, hey, what's going on? For them to realize, okay, somebody cares about me. Other signs I would say is isolating themselves, especially when it comes from a student who's usually the life of the party and different things like that. Isolation is one of the key ones when they're having an off day. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of signs that you can look at, but if you don't build that relationship with a child, it's hard. It's really hard.
Hmm. I don't know, as far as your experiences, but I remember in school, we know what teachers go that extra mile, say, hey, what's going on? And it's not like just, hey, what's going on? Like, what's really going on with you? You seem like you said you kind of been down, been distant. It also applies to coaches too. We see it so many times in sports where there are coaches who take on well, I'm just the X's and O's guys. Well, not necessarily. You're more than that because some of
Mm.
these young girls and boys look at you as, oh, this is the person who cares about me the most. This is the person who sees me at my highs and lows. This is the person I go to when mom's not there, when dad's not there, when aunt's not there. And so, what has been your experience like more so like in the classroom and in sports when it comes to that? Have you had any situations where coaches or educators feel some type of way about you taking on big sister role?
Yes. Well, first I'll talk about the two sides. So one, there's an educator at Ball High School. His name is Mr. Merritt. He allowed me to come speak to the students after he met me at parent teacher conference. And the way that he allowed me to speak to the students and the way that he introduced me to the basketball coach, which allowed me to be at Ball High School more and be there for my students, just showed me that he was one of those teachers. I've seen kids at lunch go into his classroom, some kids who are usually bullied at lunch for one reason or the other. He keeps his door open during lunch for them to go and talk to other students. Sometimes, if he knows that I'm coming there, he'll let those students come in during lunchtime and I help them with like college applications, just talk to them, ask them about their day. Like he's one of those teachers where every time I get in front of his classroom, I tell the students, if you have anything going on and you're comfortable sharing it, talk to Mr. Merritt. Please, he will go above and beyond to make sure you get the resources that you need and the help that you need. And I always tell the students too, yes, I'm here to speak to you about education and being professional, but I'm also here as somebody who wants to go into this field of mental health. I care about you. I mean, think about high school, right? I mean, things are changing. Hormones are going crazy. They were asking you about your future. I mean, geez, COVID just happened. I mean, I had students like, I don't even know. I don't even know what school I'm going to anymore, right? So much transition, so much change. It's a lot nowadays. And now you have social media too, which can be a good or a bad thing. So, to your point, there's so many great coaches, great teachers who've collaborated with me, who's made this so much easier for me to help students. But on the other hand, yes, I've had that experience where I won't necessarily say that like they feel like they're not doing enough because maybe I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for them, but I will say this for a fact. There have been many times where people question my relationship with the kids, right? They question how I know them so much, especially in small communities. I've dealt with that a lot. Like she's not even from here. She doesn't have a strong relationship with the kids. And these people who are making these comments, thankfully it's only a few, they don't know that I know their parents. I met them out in the community center. I met them out at a grocery center. Their parents trusted me enough to have them in my car for an hour driving them in Houston to a basketball game. I've taken them school shopping. I've taken them grocery shopping. Something one of my community mentors told me, especially when I first started, I used to take it personal. I used to get hurt by it. I say, I'm just trying to help the kids. I'm just trying to help the kids. Like, why are they kicking me out of this community center? Why are they, making it 10 times harder? I have no other intention but to help the kids. He told me to not take it personal. He was like, because there are many people in this community that should have been doing what you've been doing, who may have even been getting funding to do what you're doing, and they're not. So sometimes you shining a light is making them question what they've been doing all this time. It's like highlighting a spotlight on maybe their insecurity that they have never been doing enough. But you didn't say anything, you just been moving. So I'm gonna shout him out, Mr. Sean Busy Bee Taxi. He has taught me so much about not taking things personal, about just continuing to do the work that I do. And he also tells me all the time, not everybody needs to know that you know. Meaning, I know a lot about the funding because I've worked in the nonprofit space. I know about the activities that should be going on and what should be happening. But he says like you don't need to tell those people like, well, you ain't even doing X, Y, and Z. Just continue doing your work because at the end of the day, if it's about helping the child, it's about helping the child. Let's keep the main thing the main thing. And so um back to your point, like I'm grateful that when there are naysayers, I have so much community support, like people in the community who I didn't have to prove myself to, who like Mr. Merritt, Coach Temple, Mr. Sean. Um, I didn't have to prove myself to. They saw my vision from the beginning and they just decided to help me.
I commend you for being in that space because I know similar to your experience, I've been in the coaching space before where you have other coaches who have this type of feel some type of way about you when you start doing something different. And then it's like, what do you know? And mind you, like oftentimes when I was coaching, I was 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years younger than some of the older coaches, but it was like, no, I'm gonna still continue doing what I'm doing because this is for the kids. Why can we just take our egos out of this and make this about the kids? And to your point is you've been doing this for 5 years. You haven't been bragging, you haven't been boasting about it. And I see what you post online. I'm like, oh yeah, Dr. Obinyan, yeah, let's go. Like you're doing your thing, but I can tell that you have so much support and you have so much love that you're pouring into these kids. As we keep stay on this topic of kids, many students, particularly those from marginalized communities, experience trauma that affects their academic and personal lives. How can schools and educators integrate trauma informed care to better support students' mental health and overall well being?
When we think about like marginalized communities or underserved communities, or to be frank, Black and brown kids who need more of that support, social emotional support, um, I always think that collaborate with the community members who are doing the work, right? Like, yes, there are some programs in schools where they can offer the child resources and different things like that. But are we really tapping into what they're going on day to day? Are we really analyzing what's going on at home? And not in like a nosy, nitpicking way, just in the way of, are you okay? Because again, that safe space that Mr. Merritt provides, and when he lets the kids know that, hey, Miss Bianca's speaking here, they come to me at lunchtime just to check in. The students who I know and their families trust me. So when I think about how we can make things more trauma informed, I really do think it just comes down to the day-to-day relationships that you have with the kids. And sometimes, let's just be honest, if the teacher does not look like me, I'm not speaking to her. If I don't see that teacher advocating for me, whether it becomes to the basketball games or just cheering me on, or if I've had a good game and the next day, you want to be like, I don't care if you're an athlete, you still got to do my work and X, Y, and Z, knowing that I came here late because the game ended up at 2 a.m. in a different city, things like that. Like, if there's not a teacher who understands the trials and tribulations that I've go through as not even just a student athlete, but just as a Black kid in general, it doesn't matter how many trauma informed sessions that you have. If I can't trust you to talk to you, how is that going to help me? So when we think about those things, I always say just collaborate. If a mental health support system is in place, make sure you collaborate with that community, especially when we think about small towns. Make sure you collaborate with that community member that is a trusted voice. I know so many great, outstanding coaches that I wish were just paid to go to these schools twice a week during lunch. Like they used to have it way back, but they took it out or anything. But just go twice a week during lunch. Like the community members, just twice a week during lunch. I promise you, some of them fights, some of those aggression, some of that beef, some of that unwarranted behavior will go away. because it's not like kids are inherently bad. No, a lot of these kids just have a lot of things that they're going on at home, and nobody's tapping into it. No one's asking them questions about how their night was. And yes, I don't blame teachers. Everybody has constraints, but this is the reason why I'm saying again, collaborate, 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 collaborate.
The collaboration piece too, I'd imagine decreases the amount of stress that and weight that teachers have to carry.
That's what I think, right? That's what I say. When I go into Mr. Mayor's class, all the students can vouch for me. He will just leave me in the classroom to speak to the kids by myself. I can handle the classroom. Or sometimes when there's a certain group of kids who, maybe it's having a hard day, acting a little out, and Mr. Mayor knows that they just need somebody else like me to talk to them, I'm there to handle it, right? But that's only in his classroom because that's like a collaboration that me and him have had, and I'm not there every day, right? But I'm saying, yes, it will decrease the amount of workload you have. Uh, Let me say something right now. These members in Galveston, they know these kids, they know their families, they know the great grandparents, they know where everybody is. They just know the whole family, they know the whole generation. I promise you, you get three of them to walk in there during lunchtime, just having lunch, walk around with them. It'll make a ton of difference. Because why? You'll see black men who look like the black students who are successful, who know their families, been brought up in the community, speaking with them.
Hmm.
They'll be comfortable sharing their stories with them.
In your experience of being in schools, because I'm sure there are maybe some educators that may be listening to this and or coaches that are like, we don't have time to do that. We don't have money to go out there and do trainings on trauma informed. Do teachers and or coaches need to have trauma informed training to be able to open up a safe space to effectively lead and provide kids in need?
I think they just need to have life training. I mean, it's
Mm.
life. That's a good question, though. Because sometimes you can have the formal training, but until you actually speak to that student,
No, it's a question that I think of because as I see, even shoot, there's been things in the media with some of these college coaches at big universities saying things way out of pocket that I don't think any parent, especially from our community, would send their child to the school knowing what the coach has said. And so I'm thinking about, okay, do some of these educators and or leaders really need training? But I like the point that you made as far as life training, have the experience of working with a multitude of people from different backgrounds and ethnicities, because it's like, how can you understand what I'm going through if this is the first time you've ever worked with me and or had a conversation with me that and I look different
exactly,
than you. You know what I mean?
exactly, exactly. And I think about it all the time. I tell my kids all the time, Miss Bianca is not from the hood. I am from the suburbs. I am from the suburbs of Houston. I'm not in from no slums, two-parent household, right? However, that did not stop me from getting to know you. That did not stop me from taking you back to school shopping. That did not stop me from walking into your homes and getting to know your whole family and your family dynamics. It did not stop me at all. So what I tell everybody, like when we go back to life training, is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I mean, that's the reality of it, right? If you're some big um, white coach at a big university and you know nothing about coming from nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way for you to learn about that student's background? Taking a walk down where he was from, where he was born, changing your perspective. A lot of people, this is why I talk about bridging the gap between healthcare and the community, because sometimes we stay in our hospitals and we stay so, protected, but we don't take the time to actually walk into the community. And that just builds trust. But it also lets us understand, okay, now I see why they can't just go get good groceries. They don't have any transportation, right? Oh, we have a free farmers market though on the island. Well, it's like 20 miles from where they live, so it doesn't matter if it's free if they can't get to it, right? But if people don't take that time and initiative to go into the communities that they serve, it's always going to be hard.
Hmm.
You can give me 20 trauma informed trainings.
Let
If I
me
didn't take the time to go and learn about where they're from actually on a day-to-day level, then I'm not going to build that relationship. And at the
right.
end of the day, at the core of everything is relationship.
Mhm. Yeah, to your point too is like how many people. are going into the community, really having to understand. That's why when I'm gonna bring Coach Prime into this, when you
I
see Coach Prime and people have like this feel some type of way about how he's going about things from, and I don't know Coach Prime personally, but on the outside it seems like he's connecting with the community, connecting with the kids. It doesn't matter if you come from a two-parent household, if granny raised you, if single parent home. It's embracing this culture of, hey, this space is for you and you can be you. And if we don't have teachers, educators, coaches, leaders that have that approach of, hey, you can bring your whole self into this
Yep.
space, then it, as you mentioned, relationships are important, but also add to that trust, because that relationship, if the trust isn't there, I'm not I'm not fooling with you. You know what I mean? So as we're talking about this, based on your experience with community-based programs, what impact have you seen when mental health discussions are brought into schools, sports, or local organizations?
So we did this thing called Soul Food Sessions, right? And we all met up in one of the barbershops and we invited everybody to come speak about just mental health. And one of my good friend, Franklin, it was his salon. And whew, storytelling, sharing your story is at the root of all of this, right? We think about therapy, right? You're just sharing with somebody what you're going through, all that you're going through. And when we bring that into the community setting, like at a place where they go to a lot, the salon, soul food sessions, we had soul food there too as well. It's so healing, right? I always say that it's like group therapy without the therapist. Everybody's getting up and sharing their stories and saying like, hey, and then somebody else shares. It's like, hey, you know, that happened with me too. Or hey, I've been through that too. And then we're able to provide this sense of community, but also community solutions as well. I don't think we understand how much value there is when we create these safe spaces. But like you said, safe spaces are only built on relationships and trust. A lot of the times in the Black community, we're wonder, well, if I tell you this, are you going to tell somebody? Well, if I tell you this, are you going to go report to CPS? Let's just be real. It's just when you think about adolescence. If I tell you this, I don't want the laws come to my house. And it's not like they're telling us anything that's, just groundbreaking. And I know we're mandatory reporters when certain situations come up. But those are the real concerns and the questions that I have and the reasons why people don't like sharing with people that don't look like them. Because will you really understand the full dynamic? Like the thing that I love about Coach Prime and him being on that big platform is the way he treated Jimmy Horn Jr.
Mm,
The way he got on the public platform on national TV and said, I speak to his dad who is incarcerated. That warmed my heart so much because I mentor so many student athletes who have incarcerated parents. And for me to be able to show them, look, there's a coach out there that does not care about that. There's a coach out there that's willing to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm trying to recruit your son. Let's make sure we're on the same page. I love your son. He loves you. Because in society, we know the perception, right? I wrote about this in one of my personal statements that some student told me that I'd rather say that my mom is dead versus that my mom is in jail because I get more sympathy versus the stigma of her being in jail and all of a sudden this is the reason why you're bad. This is the reason why you're gonna end up like your mama, everything like that. So when we have people like Coach Prime on these national TV talking about how he speaks to Jimmy Horn's dad, it's important to show that we can still build relationships even if somebody's incarcerated, even if somebody comes from a different background. Coach Prime wasn't incarcerated. So what made him want to reach out? His heart, his strong belief in relationship, his strong belief in I am taking ownership of your son in this way. I'm becoming a father figure to your son and I'm still helping him grow in character. So I want to make sure I have this strong relationship with you as a parent. That means a lot. Like, I mean, I think people don't understand when we talk about this representation matters. These are the different ways the representation matters. I promise you, when I first went to Galveston, I went to some of my community mentor shops. I am from the suburbs. So I had to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I had to get comfortable with being in those environments. And let me tell you something right now. Us making these assumptions about what's in those environments is what's putting up this big barrier for us actually taking a step into it, right? There's
Mhm.
so much love, but there's
Uh,
only love because I decided to come in and listen to what the community had to say, listen to their solutions to their problems instead of being like, oh, I'm the med student and I'm going to be here with my white coat and y'all need this, y'all need that. No, I decided to sit back and listen and be like, yeah, how can we collaborate to come up with a solution? And
mhm.
I think that's one of the big things when we talk about just mentorship and development and character building.
The fact that this conversation is being had, and we may look like our community, but we don't have the same experiences, but that doesn't matter. And so when we start thinking about the school systems and how these mental health conversations can be so impactful, I don't think that everybody has to be able to have these conversations that look like us. Just being somebody, as you mentioned, somebody who actually cares, and somebody who is willing to go that extra mile. I'm just saying, hey, how are you really doing today? I'm a principal or I'm a superintendent of a school and I'm listening to this episode. What key takeaways would you like them to have or take from this conversation that they can implement in their school or in their community?
I think I'd want to first ask them, do you know your students? And if you don't know your students, who are the safe spaces in your school? Not where, who are the safe spaces? I promise you, every child knows that one coach, that one teacher. And if you can find who the safe space is, you can discover why they're a safe space or what tools that they're doing utilizing in their classrooms to be that safe space for students. And I would just encourage them to find that out because at the end of the day, you can't convince people to care if they don't want to care. But even if you have a little inkling of caring, just survey your students. Just survey all your students. Who's that coach that you can go to when you have a bad day? Who's that teacher that you can go to when you have a bad day? Who is your favorite teacher? Those are the questions that I ask my students, even when I'm trying to make connections with them about letter of recommendations. Who's that one teacher that you can just tell anything? Oh, it's Miss Bianca. It's Coach this. Oh, no, it's Mr. This, Mrs. This. They know who it is. So if you're a principal, if you're a superintendent, I encourage you to find who that is in your community and get to know them. And if there isn't a who, then you have to do the work to create the space.
It does take work. And in my opinion, you know, teachers are in these positions and there's a lot of expectation, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of things that they have to do. So we don't want to discredit what teachers do. However, the teachers that are working with diverse populations and aren't attuned to those students in the classroom that look different. I mean, this episode, you're hitting on these things. Who's the safe people that we can go to? And if we do have people in our school system that aren't safe, what do us as their superintendents or their teachers, what do they have to do to make their community, and what do they need to do to make their space much safer for students? Because going back to what we talked about earlier with trauma, not acknowledging a student can re-trigger a traumatic experience. It can. Like, I see those things happen in therapy when I'm working with clients, because it's like, okay, was this student abandoned? Was this student neglected? Was this student this, that, and the other? And if you have a teacher and or coach that's dismissing somebody who looks different, it pours more gasoline on the fire. So, Dr. Obinyan, I want to acknowledge you and give you your flowers for all of the work that you're doing out there. This space, medical space, is in need of people who are want to provide our community with more, who want to break down some of the stigmas as it relates to doctors and psychiatrists. I appreciate the things that you put on social media, just really pouring life into your mentees and the student athletes that you work with. So I appreciate you coming on and having this conversation. We are definitely going to have a part two to this because
Yes.
there's more that we need to dive into. But I thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
As we wrap up this conversation, what was your best part? Leave us a comment. Share this conversation with somebody out there who may be a teacher, who may be a coach. These conversations are so important, not only for our community, but for the spaces that students are in. Far too many times, students are in classrooms and or environments where they don't feel safe, seen, and or heard, and it only is a detriment to their long-term success and or growth. Share this episode to somebody who may need to hear this. Thank you for tuning in to Coach and Conversation, and we'll see you in the next episode.